Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech, and we talk each week about how crowded and loud the social media world is. You need professionals like the folks at Oak City Tech help you get the right message out to the right people. Try not to do it all on your own. Go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, about 34 chapters get together, almost 550 members, and our goal is to help each other grow their business. And our small business success story today is Dr. Cari DeCandia with Momentum Performance Consulting. Cari, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing good. So, my mom got a doctorate in psychology just for herself, just to uh, complete a goal that she wanted to do. She never used the name. We would address her letters as, Dr. Patty, and that would just, so like, stop doing that. Do you need to use it much? And how often do the folks in the family go, hey, why don't you meet my sister or my daughter, the doctor?
Um, I actually only typically ever use it when I'm teaching. So I'm an adjunct at a university in Oregon, and the students are graduate students, and they refer to me as Dr. DeCandia, but that's pretty much it.
Was that one of the plans all along to get your doctorate?
It actually wasn't. My plan initially was to solely work in an applied setting. But the more I got into the field, this opportunity just came across my desk, so to speak. I gave it a try, and I found that I really enjoyed engaging with other individuals that had a similar passion, and kind of helping them to kind of grow on their journey.
Carrie is a member of RD23. It is Raleigh Resource Group. They meet Wednesdays at 11:35. When you go back in person, I'm assuming it's still at Linwood Grill.
Yes.
Okay, on Glenwood, and a wonderful place, a very good group. She is a peak performance and leadership development coach. All right, that sounds big and a lot, and I know there's a lot involved, but break it down. What Because you work with athletes, you work with businesses, you work with business folks and individuals. What is it that you bring to folks under a Momentum Performance Consulting umbrella?
Sure. I tried to define it, and I think you nailed it. It's performance is performance, regardless of the domain that you're in. And so we're all performing, whether we are in a business setting, in a relationship, or out on the field. And so, what I try to help individuals do is to show up to be their absolute best, and take them to that next level of success, however they define it, because we all have different definitions of how we view success and what we want. So I try to help those individuals first to define what success looks like for them, and then to help them systematically develop a plan to get there.
That's a wonderful point because a lot of times we think about what we want, but we don't speak it, we don't write it down. We're just like, "Oh, that would be really good to have one day." And I'm a big fan of putting things on paper and just looking at it because I was talking with somebody the other day that I sent a proposal to for work, and we're talking about, so I was telling them why I'm a big fan of paper. I said it's like a swatch when you're wanting to paint your inside walls of your house. You put it up there and you look at it for a little while, a day, couple days, depending. But I'm a huge fan of putting stuff on paper. I'm sure you work with folks, once they see it, they're like, "Oh,
Well, if we don't know where we're going, right, we can't develop that plan to get there. So I use a metaphor often of, we're a ship in the middle of the ocean without oars or without a sail. We're just kind of letting ourselves, succumb to the wind and the waves, and having that push us in whatever direction the environment thinks we should go in, not the direction that we would necessarily want to go in.
In the business world, the clients you work with, is there a commonality of why they're successful?
Yes, they do the little things consistently.
For example,
They consistently take time to reset. And so at the beginning of the day, they know the actions that they want to take to show up and to be successful however they define it. But they have that awareness of what they need to recharge. So they're not showing up at the beginning of the day with a battery that's half full. They're fully recharged. So
I
that's one
yeah,
example.
and I have found the older I get, the word process, because I have a routine every morning. I get up and walk,
Okay.
but I don't a lot of times people hear routine, they're like, "Oh god, those are so boring." That's my process to get going,
Right.
and I'm sure others understand, like, my creative time is early, early morning. That's when I do my writing and thinking the most. Because by about 3 o'clock, I'm into I'm into task mode,
Right.
right? Couple emails, stuff like that. What are some things you help folks change? And when they realize the change, do they give you the, "I should have done this 20 years ago?"
I think it all starts with self-awareness and to committing to higher levels of self-awareness. So that for any performance change or any performance improvement, um, you have to first commit to that self-awareness. Whether it's, what are my goals? What is the destination I want to end up at? Whether it's, what are my core values and making sure that my goals are in alignment with those values. So I'm not kind of fighting against myself. What are the emotional triggers that I have so I can kind of be emotionally intelligent and show up and build those depth of relationships that are critical for, high performance. So it all starts with self-awareness.
What is the hardest thing for us to change?
Mm. For me, in my experience, I think the hardest thing is to take consistent action. We all often
Mm.
know what to do. There's not a lack of information out there between YouTube and Google and just there's so many resources. We are not lacking for information, but where we lack is on the execution piece. And so I think taking that consistent action is by far, the hardest thing to do for, to achieve consistent levels of success.
The successful people you were talking about earlier in
Mhm.
business, how many sources of information are they actually listening to at the end of the day? Because we're all content consumers to some point, but the successful people, how many places are they really taking information from?
I think we all have different kind of media streams that we prefer to take information through. I would say that the most successful people have that clarity of purpose, and they may be taking in information from a variety of resources, but they're studying one source of information at a time. And I think that's the difference.
I am fortunate to have my brother in my life for a number of reasons, but he's been a serial small business owner since about 94. And he and I actually started a couple of businesses that we've since sold. But he is my BS meter. He loves me to death. He'll do anything for me, but he is the only person in my life that will tell me the God's honest truth, whether I want to hear it or not. And that is so valuable to me.
Yes, we definitely all need someone like that in our lives.
He's funny, and I like watching him. He's got 2 kids and both in high school, and he sits with them, and he's very good at explaining what could go wrong. "You're welcome to try this, but have you planned for this, that, and the other?" And a lot of times people will come to him for his advice. He goes, "I personally wouldn't do that. Here's why. But your business, your life, you're welcome to do it, but you're asking me, I would not do that."
So he's your reality check.
Oh, huge. I can go to him, and he always has my best interest at heart. He truly does with his answers, and they are stinging sometimes. And I ran through the first business I bought was a coin laundromat when we were living in Florida. and I ran through all 3 of his red flags he gave me. I'm sure people come to you with issues like, I'm either listening to the wrong person or not listening to the right person.
Yeah, and I think that's challenging to some extent because as a coach, you want to inspire.
Mm,
And who are you to say what someone is capable of or not capable of? Um, I had a situation like this last week. Actually, I can share it with you if we have a moment.
mhm,
So, one of my students is a Division 1 track coach, and one of his athletes who has aspirations to be on the US Olympic team wanted to quit school to pursue his dream and go and train in Kenya. And this athlete was a great athlete on the team, well liked by all of the team members. He was a great contributor from a performance standpoint. And so the coach admittedly did not want this athlete to leave and go train in Kenya. Um, except that the advice that he was giving him was, it seemed to be more focused um, on his own desire to keep that
mm,
athlete on the team because he was a great team member, a great performer for the college, and did not take into account this athlete's dreams of becoming a future Olympian, even though the likelihood of him becoming a future Olympian was probably lower than realistic. Um, and so I think it's hard sometimes where maybe you know that that individual doesn't have what it takes at this
mm,
moment, but as a coach or as a leader, you don't want to squash their dreams, and you have to then weigh which is which is greater, the potential for regret
mm.
or the potential for failure, and then what is the impact of that failure if it does happen.
And as a mom, you can appreciate that analogy because sometimes they're all my kids and, do we go should we move to this school for that reason or move here and things like that, and that it's hard,
Right.
especially when you see somebody if like the runner, that was their goal, and again, if it all if they went to Kenya and trained and never made the Olympic team, would that have been not a wrong choice, but not the best choice? Don't know, right?
Well, I think you have to look at the downside.
Mhm,
You know, he was leaving school and he was leaving a scholarship. But at that point, that was really the only kind of potential obstacles or rather potential drawbacks. Whereas if he didn't go to Kenya and he continued on this path
yeah.
and he didn't realize his dreams, that unknowing,
Oh, yeah.
that
Yep.
of could I have made it had I X, Y, or Z? I think that has the far greater potential for being kind of life altering.
Yeah, and with the folks you work on the personal side with, again, as I get older, you get more perspective and stuff, um, and they're not really regrets, I don't think. They're almost what if, or should I have, or what would happen. I love those moments in time where people make a decision to do something, go somewhere, and they meet their future spouse, their future business partner, something works out, but just an instantaneous, okay, I'm going to go there this day. I love those moments. I hate when they don't work out, but man, when they work out, they're great stories.
Well, I experienced that moment when I made that decision to leave my career after 20 years to go back to graduate school and pursue my passion. You know,
And
I
you,
had
you wonder, if you hadn't done that, I mean, where would you be today? I don't know. We would not be talking, correct?
probably not.
Yeah. But and you
I
you look back though and you go, "Oh, boy, glad I did."
100%. And I agree that it's, you have to have, I think, it makes it easier rather if you have a really strong support system
Mm.
that allows you to get outside of your comfort zone because you know that if you do fail, you have that support.
I've given up on saying how long we're in or near the end of COVID. I was wrong because I thought when we first went, because BNI stopped meeting in person last March of
Right.
2020. I thought it was gonna be like a month, just tell you how smart I was, which is why I don't gamble because Vegas, I could build 4 more hotels in Vegas if I went and took my money and gambled there. But we're starting to get outside the house more, I'll
Mhm.
say that. What kind of things are you seeing and hearing from people that have been in the house or working from home for the better part of a year? What are they dealing with? What are some things we can think about as we kinda get back out in society?
Um, I think now it's still there's still a lot of uncertainty. And this, I think, again, kind of goes back to that self-awareness of knowing what you feel comfortable with and staying true to that. Um, as we engage, which is amazing. And I think people are really excited to get back to events or going to restaurants, seeing people. And as the numbers, continue to get smaller, but I do think there are still a lot of people that have some uneasiness. And so I think it's one is knowing where you are and staying true to that, but then also respecting that not everyone is in the same place.
Mm.
And so respecting other people's kind of values and what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm in that group of people that has a family member with some immune issues,
Hmm. I am
and
too.
and I would and I'm not real happy when I get strong-armed into, "Well, why don't you wanna come to this face-to-face meeting?"
Right.
It's like, A, none of your damn business, and B, if I tell you, you're gonna feel bad. And I almost got to the point one time with somebody, I said, "If you had a family member with immune issues and you got them sick and something happened, A, how would you feel? And B, would it have been worth it going to that networking event?"
Yeah. Well, I think it's too short-term thinking versus long-term thinking.
Yep. Yeah. But I have found with business owners, though, they've learned a lot about their business. They've offered new services, tried a different way of doing things. So some of the folks I talk to have actually learned some stuff and grown their business that way. So that's encouraging at least.
Yeah, I think it also from a culture standpoint, which is so important within a business setting, well, in any team environment. Um, I think it caused people to be more intentional.
Mhm.
Um, and I think you can never go wrong when you are more intentional with what you're doing.
That's actually a very good word. I don't think I've heard that word used for that because everybody uses the word pivot, and I'm over that. Just like, "Can you hear me now?" And, "Hey, you're muted." Love those on a Zoom call. But you're right because some of it was self-preservation,
Yeah.
especially if you owned a restaurant, it's like, "Oh, what do you mean we can't open up for a month?" And then all of a sudden, "Oh, let's get our delivery business going better." Things like that. So I'm hoping you've seen some of those success stories with some of your clients.
Oh yeah, and definitely, and going back to that culture piece, when you can't naturally build that camaraderie and that culture in that business setting because there's no conversations at the water cooler, right? So you have to only intentionally create an environment or opportunities for your employees to connect, to maintain or to continue to build the culture that you want to see within your business.
Yep, you are correct on that. We are here with Cari DeCandia of Momentum Performance Consulting, also a member of RD23. They meet Wednesdays at 11:35. Right now, they're meeting via Zoom, but when they get back in person, they'll be at Linwood Grill. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. A number of ways they can help you folks. One of the things we talk about is emails, your email campaign. Today, if Facebook wanted to, they could shut down your Facebook page if you did something wrong. And I had a friend of mine that happened to. On her business page, she accidentally posted a picture of her mother and her daughter talking about a fundraiser they're doing for her daughter's school, and Facebook shut her down. So she had to And because she had a couple other Facebook pages and groups she was the admin of, she couldn't get into those because there's no other co-admin on there. So she lost a bunch of stuff. So that can happen, and it has happened, and it probably will continue to happen, but nobody can take your email list from you. So go to professionals like Oak City Tech that know how to handle that and help you through that. Go to oakcitytech.com. I know they'll be able to help you. All right, Carrie. A adjunct professor at William Peace University, which when I moved here, it was Peace College. So I have a couple friends that graduated from Peace, and I always have to correct myself on that. But William Peace University, and then University of Western States. How'd you get into that? And do you like teaching?
So University of Western States was actually where I went to graduate
Mhm.
school. And so I was, obviously, I knew the program director really well. And after I had graduated and been in the field for a few years, he asked if I wanted to facilitate a course with one of my old professors. And knowing the professor, I jumped at that opportunity to work with him because he's the mental skills coach for the Tampa Bay Rays. And he's just an amazing person. And so I loved working with him as a student and just really wanted to work with him in a professional environment also. So that is how that started.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Rays as an organization. They draft players and they develop players, and then unfortunately, they don't have a huge budget, so they have to end up trading them because they lose them. But that they do a wonderful job of developing talent. So I'm sure some of the stuff that professor does with them has paid off because it's a wonderful study on that. And then at William Peace, what you are sport and performance psychology.
Correct. Yep. So that's the course that I teach at Peace University, um, and have been doing that now. I'm going on my third semester with them.
When you started, you were in person.
Correct.
Okay. What have you learned about you as a team once you started at either place? What have you learned about you?
I have learned that a lot, actually. But I would say probably the most important thing is that just because something is second nature to you doesn't necessarily mean that it's second nature to someone else. So the first thing is it's critically important to create that environment of psychological safety where people feel comfortable asking questions, and then creating an environment that tries to kind of share that knowledge in a variety of different ways, just to increase the chances that they understand what you're saying.
We all get, well, not all of us, but most of us get caught in the weeds in our industry initials and verbiage. So I'm glad to hear you say that because a lot of times the plain truth with small words is wonderful. People can absorb that.
Right. And the importance of experiential learning.
Yes. Yep. Now
So
we
I would say every semester I've incorporated more kind of project based or experiential exercises to help them to fully understand the mental skill that we're studying in that moment.
What kind of experiences do you put together for them? Can you give us an example?
Sure. So when we're talking about the importance of increasing awareness, we do a 7-day mindfulness challenge. And initially, I was asking them to meditate for 10 minutes a day, because meditation has shown to be the most effective way at increasing awareness. However, um, that apparently was a big ask. So I've changed it, and so now I do a 7-day mindfulness challenge where I ask them to pick one activity that they do on kind of autopilot every day. So whether that's brushing their teeth or getting dressed or taking a shower, walking to class, whatever that activity is. And then I ask them to be fully mindful or fully present for that activity. So, for example, if they're brushing their teeth, I ask them to just be fully present in that experience and to experience as many of the different senses as they can. So, how does the weight of the toothbrush feel in their hand? How does the toothpaste that they have taste in their mouth? How do the bristles feel against their gums or their teeth? And so the more present and the more of those different sensory experiences that you allow yourself to experience, the more present you'll be. The goal would be the more present you are throughout the day. So it's interesting, and then I asked them to write a reflection of what that experience was like for that 7 day period, and it's really interesting to hear um, what they often come up with.
I like that, and I always find a shameless way to get my grandson into the show, because I saw him over the weekend. But I go walking every morning, I have an earbud in, and I listen to a podcast, different types of podcasts. But when I go walk in the neighborhood with him, I see everything because he asks questions. He sees stuff that I don't see because my head's down walking. So it's kinda nice sometimes to not multitask and just enjoy the moment. You're like, "Oh, I didn't know that went that way," or "I could have done that better."
Yeah, mindful walking is an amazing activity, especially if you're doing it in nature.
Yes. Now I walk the same route in the neighborhood every day, but I do notice, uh, oh, what's the shoot, I was mentioning this the other day. Anyways, there's always one house, at least every other day, their garage door's open. We're talking like 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning is when I go. And that jumps out at me, even though it's the same garage open all the time. I don't know if that's good or bad awareness. I'm not looking into people's garages, I promise them things. But it's the only one open, so it pops out at me.
Yeah.
Reticular activator, that's what I was trying to remember. You
Okay.
know, when you wanna buy that red Corvette and you swear you've never seen one and you pull off out the lot and you pass 4 of them and you're like, "Oh, jeez."
Well, and that's exactly why it's so important that we write down our goals,
Yes.
right? Because we're now directing our mind as to what to focus on.
Are you a good student as a coach for your business?
So, love of learning is my number one character strength, and I absolutely love it. However, it is also probably one of my biggest challenges from the perspective of focusing or studying rather than being a consumer of information.
Yeah.
So I have to constantly kind of bring myself back to that as well. You had mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, because 'cause we're so busy helping everybody else's business and their life, we forget about ours sometimes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it. I usually I'll set a goal as to either a certification
Mm,
or a new benchmark for personal growth. And so, for example, this year, my goal was to earn my CMPC, which is Certified Mental Performance Consultant certification. And so I achieved that, and so now I'm looking at what my next one is. And so I definitely, if I'm asking my clients to
mm.
continue their growth, I'm 100% going to continue to do it myself.
Yes, because then you can share the pluses and minuses to doing it or not doing it.
Right.
We are here with Cari DeCandia, Momentum Performance Consulting. She is in RD8, RD23. They meet Wednesdays at 11:30, right now on Zoom. So if you want to meet a good group of people on Wednesday during lunch, her group is a wonderful place to have lunch. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. One of the things we talk about with social media posting is, oh my gosh, it's wonderful for 72 hours. And then it's like, oh, I got to do it again and again and again. So go find professionals like the folks at Oak City Tech that can do that for you because you want to be consistent with your message and get it consistently to the right people. All right, Carrie, one of my favorite questions on the show is love to know how people met their spouses. So I always ask, so how did you and Denise meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
I wish that I could say it's exciting. Um, we met through mutual friends. So after I stopped playing softball in college, I missed that camaraderie that you feel kind of within a high level sport, or any team really. And so I joined a rugby team
Nice.
because I found after going to some rugby parties that there was not a group of usually closer people than a rugby team. And so I joined a rugby team, and yeah, we met through some mutual friends through that.
Did was she on the rugby team?
No.
Okay. Is she an athlete?
Yeah, yes, she played sports in high school and then continues to play them recreationally.
Okay. What have the kids gotten athletic wise from you 2? And then how does your coaching and leadership work in their life as you're raising them and trying to explain and answer all the why question?
Okay. Um, so I would say that my son got his love of the Mets from Denise because she grew up on Long Island. And so growing up as a Yankee fan, that was very painful for me. I lost that battle, but as long as they're not playing the Yankees, he will pull for them. So at least there's that. Um, so yeah, my son loves baseball. My daughter loves all sports: soccer, gymnastics, softball. Well, baseball. She hasn't played softball yet. So I think generally we're a super active family, and so our goal was to continue that and to rub off on them. So right now that's working. So hopefully that continues.
Now, before we came on the air, you had mentioned that you are you have an Italian heritage, right?
Hmm.
Did you watch the Euros yesterday?
I
The
did
soc
not.
the soccer championships? Italy beat England.
So soccer is one of the sports that I've never played,
Yeah.
mainly because as a younger child I did not like running, and so I tried it one season and I quickly decided against it. Um, so no, I didn't. I did not watch that.
So going back to when you and Denise met, when and where was the first date?
Um, I forget the name of. It was in Cary. It was I think it was Cary Tavern, which I don't think is there anymore. Um, we had just hung out, and when we met, she was not. We were both recently out of relationships, so neither of us were in a place to um, kind of pursue anything. But we both knew there was something there, but we were slow to develop it.
And sometimes that works for the better when it just kinda takes on let it take on a life of its own. You're friends for a while, right?
Right.
Okay. So can you watch the Mets Yankees on TV together?
Oh yeah. Yes. But
Any
if the Yankees lose, it's torturous for me because my son is very charismatic about the Mets.
is your side of the family okay with that?
Yeah.
You can't not love a grandkid, but it's like, "Come on, dude," let's think through this. And this year's
Well,
tough for you because the Mets are actually playing better than the Yankees.
yes. I'm aware every day when my son first thing he does when he gets up in the morning is check the standings and then reminds me of where everybody sits.
You just need, you need a sign with that just what is it like? You guys have won, what, 20 World Series or something like that, and they've won at least 1, maybe 2.
2, I think.
Okay, alright, and just have a sign that's got 20 and 2, and just hold that up, just put it on the fridge and just point to it.
Yeah. Well, and usually what happens though with the Mets, and it'll be interesting because tomorrow's the All-Star game.
Mm.
Um, and it's also my son's birthday, so he's super excited about that. But usually the Mets start to go downhill after the All-Star break. So we'll see if they can kind of continue their good performance so far.
Well, and plus they are playing oh, do what? Oh, sorry. I keep clicking my pen, so that's one of mine, yeah. Plus they're playing in a really crappy division, so they wouldn't be leading anywhere else except that division.
Yeah, when I try to venture the loss record, it really doesn't get any traction, but that's what I'm holding on to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do your kids play any sports?
Yep. My son Cortland, he plays soft or baseball, and with COVID, he took a break. But he'll be returning back this year. He's trying out lacrosse. He just went to tennis camp, and so I'm a big believer in, a well-rounded athlete, especially up until they get to that kind of 13, 14-year-old age. I think it's super important. All the research shows that it's a lot more important to be well-rounded
Mm,
and not do early sport specialization. And so
yes.
I really tried to help promote them trying a variety of different sports and kind of seeing what they like. And but it's hard as a parent. So I understand
Mm.
that pressure, but you know, I understand it, but I definitely do promote the importance of trying a variety of activities.
When you're sitting in the stands at one of his baseball games and you're there as a mom and you're kind of there as a leadership and performance coach, kind of coaching notes do you make to yourself about either the coaches, another parent in the stands screaming about something? Does work come into play very often when you're at one of his games?
It doesn't. Okay, it doesn't now. It did in the beginning. And the more I studied this, the more I understood the impact that coaching from the stands had on him in a negative way.
Mhm.
And so now it doesn't. And I'm a silent or encourager, you know, but other than that, I don't say anything. Um, and at the end of the game, the only thing I tell him is that I loved watching him play.
Yep.
And so if he wants to talk about it or if he wants to ask for tips, then I let him initiate that. But I have learned that not to do that.
The number one thing that I tell people when we're talking parenthood is just show up. It's more important for Cortland. He probably doesn't know it today, but he will as he gets older, just to look in the stands and see both of you there.
Well, I remember as an athlete growing up, when my dad would come to my softball games, he would always kind of sit or stand against, usually the left field or right field outfield fence. And he wouldn't say anything. And he would just stand there and clap when appropriate. Um, and so that was I kind of try to model after him.
Will you be a coach one day?
That's really hard to say. Um, because I think there's both advantages and disadvantages to being a coach to your kids.
Yeah.
And so I haven't reconciled that yet.
I did it with both my boys in baseball and basketball. Probably coached each of them at least half a dozen times. Wouldn't trade any of that. You do have to explain because my oldest son was always one of the better players on the team, and he played all the time, but all the other good players, did as well. I followed the rules of getting everybody in, the amount of time, and then hopefully, some more. But I enjoyed it. It helped me parent a little bit better. So I didn't have to. So I knew when to say something, kind of like go back to your dad, when to say something, when not to say something. I enjoyed it very much. It was a lot of fun. It's not for everybody, but I always there was always that one parent in the stands who always critiqued. Not it just you don't do this, so I'm not saying this to you, but there's usually a dad in the stands when my boys were growing up that always critiqued the coach. And one day somebody said, "So when are you going to coach?" He goes, "Oh, I don't have time for that." And then we're all looking at each other like, "Well, then shut up."
I think I could see myself being an assistant coach. I don't know that I would want to be the head coach.
Even for softball.
Yes. I think mainly because though of that potential dynamic of coaching my daughter.
Who would it be tougher on, you or her?
I think I would always be super aware of those decisions, whether to play her or not play her, to make sure I wasn't showing favoritism.
Mm.
but then the potential of almost being too hard on her to show to show that I wasn't showing favoritism. Um, and then I know as a child, I don't know that I would want her to be in that position too, where people would look at her potentially differently or think that she hasn't earned a spot. So I think, being an assistant coach would still give me enough opportunity to influence, but not be in that primary decision making role.
That makes sense. I think you would enjoy it. It's a lot of fun just when those kids at that age have an aha moment, and to be on the bench or in the dugout with them is just wonderful. Their faces light up, they look for their parents, "Did you see me score a run or make a basket?" or whatever it is the best part of coaching for me, and that's why
Yeah.
I got into it as well, so,
Well, I
y
did coach. I coached a 16 and under junior Olympic team in softball right after I graduated college, and that was awesome. And so I do enjoy it, definitely. And my daughter starts softball for the first time in the spring, and so we'll see.
you should do it as a case study.
Okay.
So you could teach another class somewhere about how parents quit being knuckleheads at little league games, because that's the worst part about little league are the parents, they're just some of them are just
Oh,
idiots, so
I could tell you stories,
oh, yeah,
as I'm sure you
we
can.
all got I gotta get there's a guy who coached when I was coaching my oldest son in basketball, he knew his career one-loss record. I'm like, "Man, the Lakers are not gonna hire you if you win the, 12 and under, Rehoboth Church League championship." But he knew his record, can oh gosh, Gary, I'm telling you. You have done one thing on LinkedIn that I'm proud of you, and
What's
I'm
up?
not happy with you at the same time, is you put your stinking 4.0 GPA on there, and I would have done it too if I got anywhere close to but you should, because that's a wonderful accomplishment.
Thank you.
Was it hard for you to get a 4.0 in college? And we're talking that was, in your doctoral program.
Yeah. So in my
Yeah,
master's and my doctorate, if we're
yeah.
being precise,
Please, hey, it's not bragging if you did it.
but not an undergraduate. And I think that was the difference.
Oh, I know. Oh, then I can tell you why you got a 4.0 because you went back
Yeah.
on your term.
Yeah. And I had purpose. I
Mhm.
definitely had that, that exact purpose of what I was seeking to do.
And my mom did the same thing. She went, started college, boy meets girl, boy and girl fall in love, boy and girl have a kid, girl quits college, boy goes on to, get the degree. That's my parents back in the 50s, right? And so once the 3 of us I have an older sister, younger brother, once we got a little bit older, she went back to school on her terms and just, I mean, 4.0 everywhere.
And just kept going because
Yeah,
that's not even,
yeah,
finishing college. That's
yeah,
finishing and then.
yeah. When we moved here, she got her finished, 3 years of undergraduate, then a master's, and then a doctorate at State, but she went back on her terms for her reasons and loved it.
Yep.
So, yep, no, I would put 4.0 if I got it in anything. I didn't even anyways, we won't get into that, but, well done. Thanks for being on the show today. We enjoyed it very much. Folks can get in touch with you. We've been putting your phone number up there. They can also go to momentumperformancegroup.com, and you can help them with business and personal goals, issues,
Whatever
anything like that.
area, yeah, they want to increase their, level of success in.
Yep, because you're right, and you said it earlier, we're all performing, whether it's on the softball field, the boardroom, or at home, right? We all need to wanna have better performances.
So, well,
So
thank you so much
yep.
for having me. It's been great talking with you.
Well, good to get to know you a little bit more, and I just thought I'd give you the pleasure of that 4.0. I didn't want to lead the show with it because, I wanted to just build that momentum to the end to get that 4.0, but again, thankfully, nobody walking this earth knows my GPA, so, that'll never get out, but I would tell if I got a 4.0, they'd know it, so anyways, we enjoyed it very much, Carrie. Good luck with, BNI. Hopefully, you guys will get back meeting in person shortly, and with the business and with kids and everything, and, folks, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Triangle BNI.
tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.